Welcome to Beautiful, Bad and Bizarre. Today we're visiting the last home and the final resting place of a man who came to be known as a British institution of the stage, screen and television. Stanley Augustus Holloway was born in London on the 1st of October 1890. He grew up to become one of the best-loved entertainers of the 20th century. From a very young age, Stanley's ambition was to be an opera singer. He had an exceptionally fine voice, but his father abandoned the family in 1905. Stanley was just 15 at the time, and it prompted him to leave school and find work. In 1913, Stanley's mother passed away, and that same year he married his first wife, Alice, who was known as Queenie. The following year, their daughter was born, 3 months after the outbreak of World War One. Stanley joined the British Army and saw active service. Meanwhile, Queenie was literally left holding the baby and struggling to make ends meet. She got into serious financial difficulty and began drinking heavily. After the war, when Stanley returned home, he worked hard and he paid off the debts that his wife had incurred. But for various reasons, he later ended up bankrupt himself. While in the army, Stanley would entertain his fellow troops, and once demobbed after the war, he pursued a career on the stage. By 1921, he debuted in his first silent movie called The Rotters. Stanley Holloway was a true variety act, singing, acting, writing and performing monologues to perfection. The 1930s saw Stanley constantly in demand in every aspect of entertainment. His popularity was soaring and he was one of Britain's most hard-working actors. Stanley Holloway's personal life was not so easy. He and Queenie had 3 children together, and in 1937 Queenie died of cirrhosis of the liver. But by 1939 Stanley had married his second wife, Violet Lane, who was known as Laney. Stanley and Laney were exceptionally happy together and had a close, loving relationship for the rest of their lives. Their only son, Julian, is also an actor, and he's the father of the author and former fashion model, Sophie Dahl. Domestic bliss and career success was soon to be overshadowed by World War II. By this time, Stanley was too old for active service, so instead he contributed to making films for the war effort. After the war, Stanley began appearing in films such as Brief Encounter alongside Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard.
All right, and one of those daft-looking dogs with hair over its eyes.
I don't know to what breed you refer.
I don't think it knows itself.
Stanley was also making films for Ealing Studios, which included the classic Passport to Pimlico in 1949. Stanley worked with Diana Dors in 1951's Bikini Baby, which was also known as Lady Godiva Rides Again. Interesting to note that Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be hanged in Britain for murdering her lover, is cast in this film as one of the beauty contestants. If you've watched it and you've spotted Ruth, please let me know below in the comments. Stanley Holloway also appeared alongside Diana Dors in 1955's An Alligator Named Daisy. In 1956, Stanley was appearing on stage in My Fair Lady as Alfred P. Doolittle, the father of Eliza. The play was a phenomenal success on Broadway, earning him a Tony nomination for his marvellous performance. In 1964, Stanley reprised the role at the age of 73 for the film version. It's arguably his greatest achievement, for which he was nominated an Oscar in 1965. It's also to his credit that Stanley was the only member of the main cast to do his own singing and not to be dubbed. In 1960, Stanley Holloway was awarded an OBE in the Queen's New Year's Honours List for his services to drama. During the 1970s, he toured the world, enjoying his fabulous fame. He was universally loved and adored. In later life, he moved to East Preston in West Sussex. His former home has a blue plaque, and I'll take you there now to see it. Such a beautiful place to live. The sea is just behind the bungalow, and you can imagine Stanley and Laney enjoying the views from the garden with the Sunday papers and a cup of tea. Sadly, on the 30th of January 1982, at the age of 91, Stanley Holloway suffered a stroke and died at the Nightingale Nursing Home in Littlehampton, West Sussex. We're now going to the church where Stanley is buried with his beloved wife Lainey, who passed away in 1997. The Church of St Mary the Virgin in East Preston is a beautiful Grade 1 listed building that was restored in 1869. There's been a church on this site since the 12th century. There's so much wildlife here and it's very pretty. Stanley Holloway was such an incredible entertainer and is remembered for so many different talents, including singing, acting and the recital of wonderfully humorous monologues. He worked with all the great stars of the day, and Stanley never went out of fashion. With a career spanning 70 years and over 80 credits in film, television and the theatre, he's the best example of what you can achieve if you put your mind to it. I feel honoured to be able to bring flowers and pay my respects to such a brilliant actor and his much-loved wife Lainey. Thank you so much for joining me on another journey back in time. Please share in the comments if you're a fan of Stanley Holloway and what your favourite film or monologue is. I really appreciate you watching and I hope to see you again soon in the next video.